We recently learned which social networks are not controlled by the company: Twitter and Steam accounts. We figured this out because of the changed account logo. Now the DaFuqBoom character looks serious. In addition, we have received leaks from DaFuqBoom that prove everything we have been saying, namely that he is against everything the company is doing. Almost 2 months have passed since the strike against Invis, and the company's position has remained virtually unchanged, except for this message from the company, where they promised that episode 80 would be filmed in SFM format, and that DaFuqBoom had allegedly been promoted and now manages a group of employees under him, and that he is also working on a separate project outside of YouTube, which project we still don't know about. For 2 months, the company stuck to its plan, and it seemed to be working, as the fan strike was no longer what it had been months ago. But something prompted the company to take a rash action. Before we begin, I would like to ask you to get 7,000 likes, which will help promote the video, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't lose the channel on YouTube. What happened? Why did the company deviate from its plan to sit it out? It should be noted that YouTubers have a lot of inside information and compromising material on the company, and of course they will not reveal everything at once, but will do so gradually if the company does not make concessions and return control to DaFuqBoom. Thus, the Iron Cameraman talked about the film that Michael Bay is making. He saw this film a few months ago, but talked about it now, at the right time. If you want to know more, you can watch this video in the upper right corner. After the information was leaked, the company sent the Iron Cameraman a letter threatening legal action. Upon learning about the whole situation, DaFuq changed his logo on the social networks where he has full access, which are currently his Twitter and Steam accounts. I think changing the logo on his accounts is a demonstrative behavior and a warning to the company that Invis is already going too far, and that the author of Skibidi Toilet obviously doesn't like it. DaFuqBoom has always criticized fan-made content that is raw, and he clearly wouldn't have published Emergence if it weren't for the contract. We have already seen DaFuqBoom's public anger when a hater named Nemi tried to insult DaFuqBoom and his viewers, and DaFuq wrote a message harshly criticizing Nemi, the main reason being the insult to his viewers. Essentially, the situation repeated itself, with threats being made against the cameraman, who is also a viewer and part of the fandom. Of course, after that, he had to express his position somehow, but without violating the contract, because if the contract with DaFuqBoom is terminated, DaFuqBoom will be in big trouble. Therefore, what Boom did is a very dangerous move for him. Later, I will show you another hidden leak from DaFuqBoom that could harm him. Just recently, Evan Purr, who has known Alexei for over 10 years, decided to speak up. According to him, he kept quiet for a long time, but when he had some free time, he shared what he knew. His words explained the situation surrounding DaFuqBoom and the company. As he claims, the pressure on Alexei built up slowly. At first, it was minor demands, then constant interference, then new conditions. All of this gradually weighed on him until he found himself in a difficult situation. Evan says that after repeated attempts by the Invis to control the process, DaFuq fell into a deep depression. After the release of episode 78, Evan put together an updated version of the DMX Packager tool. He made it specifically for transferring projects that already belonged to Invis. All this was done to make Alexei's work easier and give him a chance to move on to new things. Austin Kilger, one of the employees of Invisible Narratives, added Evan to the shared Google Drive. Without any agreements or discussions, he gave Evan editing rights. Then he sent there what DaFuq had sent him. In the screenshot, you can see for yourself that Evan really did transfer a lot of projects, such as episodes 75 through 79, as well as seasons 1 through 25. Evan says that Invis didn't pay him a cent for this. He didn't do it for the money. He just wanted to help Alexei and contribute so that he wouldn't be left alone at a time when the pressure was at its peak. A little later, we will return to this conflict and try to define Evan Purr's personality more accurately, to make sure you don't miss anything. First, it's important to understand that Evan didn't previously appear in the creation of episodes and didn't speak publicly about his acquaintance with DaFuq. Alexei himself never mentioned him openly either. But, according to Evan Purr, he helped Alexei with animations from time to time, long before the appearance of Skibidi Toilets. He saw how DaFuq worked, how he approached projects, and how the quality gradually improved, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. After the release of Skibidi Toilets, Alexei, according to Evan, felt truly happy. He made episodes not under pressure, but with a genuine desire to continue. That's why we saw the quality and plot development improve over a long period of time. When Invis offered him a contract, everything seemed to get even better. But after a while, when the views started to drop, Alexei changed dramatically. Evan says that Dafuk became a different person, namely depressed, uneven, and lost. He suggested that he do something else at the same time, try another idea, liven up the process, but Alexei refused. He didn't want to end the series, didn't want to move away from it, as if he felt that he had to continue with it alone, despite his fatigue. If until 2023 Dafuk made various animations such as Transformers, Male 07, Male 09, and others, then for the last 2 years he has completely closed himself off to Skibidi Toilets and has not created anything else. And when Invisible Narratives began to put more pressure on him, they finally broke his nervous system. Evan, like many YouTubers, says that Invizam doesn't need an audience, but money. They grabbed a huge project from which they can extract everything possible. It's clear that Evan can't tell the whole truth. He himself admits that if he reveals everything, not only Dafuk but also his family will have problems. Therefore, everything he has said is only the part that was already known and will not lead to new consequences. After a little digging on the internet, I found his Steam account and his real name popped up there. Ivan, 25 years old. If anyone decides that this is a fake page, there's no need to doubt it. Just go to Dafuk's Steam account and you'll see Evan Purr in his friends list. If you open Evan's page and go to the video tab, you can see that he posted animations in various formats, mostly related to CSGO. And this is important. Before, Dafuk also had a lot of animations on the same topic, the same styles, the same approaches, the same type of editing. This parallel clearly shows that he was indeed helping Alexei long before fans learned of his existence. Basically, that's all that can be said about this person for now. But one thing is certain, he is very close to Dafuk, and that means that in the near future, we will be able to learn a lot more. For example, different ideas, new projects, and possibly even some details of the contract with Invis. In any case, over time, it will be interesting and important for understanding the whole story. For those who have forgotten or are not aware, after signing the contract with Invisible Narratives, namely after the 66th episode, the company began to gradually clamp down on Dafuk Boom. It all started with the usual small demands, but gradually it escalated to the point where, from 2024, Dafuk stopped receiving any money for his work altogether. At the same time, he was given unrealistic deadlines that made it physically impossible to produce a quality result. Because of this, the last episodes looked raw and incomplete, with storylines left undeveloped, even though it had previously been promised that there would be many of them. What made things even more difficult was that Dafuk was experiencing burnout. Viewers were quite harsh in their comments about his work, even though the fault lay entirely with the circumstances and not with him. He was unable to publicly explain or defend his position, which added to the pressure. Failure to comply with the terms and conditions may result in penalties, such as fines. Considering that he has not received any money for over a year, the promised film is not progressing, and the project that was supposed to bring success to Skibidi Toilet has turned into emergence, it is not surprising that the desire to create new episodes may completely disappear. In this situation, there is no benefit for him at all, and this is clear to anyone who has followed the whole story. By the way, I forgot to mention that Evan Purr stated that they have countless pieces of evidence to back up his words. Of course, no one is going to show all of this publicly. Disclosing all the information would violate confidentiality, and not everyone is willing to reveal all their cards to the audience. But even without this, it becomes clear who they are dealing with. Invis employs people with extremely strange thinking, to put it mildly. One of them directly accuses many reviewers such as iBio, Zach Dorr, and Iron Cameraman of doing it only for money. At the same time, everyone knows that the company itself is acting wrongly, but he tries to shift the responsibility onto others, portray himself as a victim, and at the same time claims that he was not paid to defend Invisible Narratives, and that he himself was an avid fan of Skibidi Toilets. All this looks mean and cynical because the person realizes that the project is under pressure from the outset, and at the same time he tries to shift the focus to others and justify the company's actions. Another employee, David, who is responsible for views, said only that viewers will calm down when the company releases the sequel to that very masterpiece, Emergence. And here too, everything is clear. He doesn't care how the author suffers. He doesn't care that the project is losing quality. He cares about retaining the audience for his own benefit, and I hope you understand how awful that is. People are consciously trying to manipulate viewers, to keep their attention, simply to profit from it. They don't think about creativity. They don't think about the creator. All they care about is money and control. Let me say right away that I didn't say anything unnecessary. I was just repeating what is already obvious and what almost everyone in the community has been talking about for a long time. When watching videos or reading information about Skibidi Toilet, you can often see the hashtag #BringBoomBack. But unfortunately, our community is not big enough for larger YouTubers such as Creekcraft or Penguins to pick up on it. Invisible Narratives benefits greatly from its own popularity and authority. Add to that the fact that they collaborate with Transformers and other major projects, and it becomes clear how difficult it is to prove them wrong. I would also like to note that at the time of writing this script, there are still no new explanations or comments from Dafuk on the situation. I want to believe that he has not given up, but on the contrary, he is motivated to regain full control of the project and prove himself right. Knowing Dafuk, you can be sure that he is cunning, attentive to detail, and able to find weaknesses in any situation. I think he will definitely find some clues that will allow him to defend his rights with good arguments. For example, I will repeat that under California law in Los Angeles, where this company is located, it is possible to file a lawsuit for certain violations, such as breach of contract. This means that if one party systematically fails to fulfill its obligations or creates conditions under which the other party cannot fully perform its duties, this is considered a breach of contract. And at the beginning of the video, from Evan's words, we understood that the contract has already been breached by Invisalign. Also, if the contract contains unequal terms, an unconscionable contract, and, for example, the contract is drafted in such a way that one party receives a clear advantage and the rights of the other party are infringed upon, the court may declare certain clauses invalid or even terminate the entire contract. Or you can use the principle of good faith and fair dealing. In California, all contracts imply good faith performance. If one party acts in bad faith or deliberately interferes with the other, this may be grounds for termination. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what is available in open sources. If you consult with experienced lawyers who know these laws, they will be able to study the contract in more detail and help Dafuk in this situation by providing real legal leverage to protect his interests. And it seems to me that Dafuk Boom is already working in this direction. We should also not forget the role of Evan Purr and his evidence, which may also have an impact and lead to results, albeit not immediately. A screenshot was also leaked on Twitter showing Dafuk Boom's like. He liked a post criticizing the company. This is further evidence that Dafuk Boom is now forced to remain silent. Silence does not mean approval of the company's actions, but rather a forced measure, so those who did not believe it now have to believe it. I am a super cameraman. See you very soon. Bye, everyone.